Actually, why don't I go ahead and we'll have the wandering line.
Okay. This is a question for everyone in regards to your policies to help the U.S. get involved with the UN. Would you support and write policies for the U.S. to give more aid to the UN to help countries in need, such as Sudan, Darfur?
Start with this.
I've looked very closely at this question, and it's an extremely complex one. Fundamentally, the humanitarian assistance role of the United Nations is one that should be performed by all nations, instead of our preoccupation with the military as a Western civilization. We should be preoccupied with how it is that we're going to help our neighbors. So, in general, I would be in favor of humanitarian assistance. However, I'm also wise to the fact that certain imperialist types and corporate resource exploitation types are aware that they can successfully use propaganda to legitimate interventions in nations where they then take over. I'm afraid that such is going on in Darfur. As such, I think that before I would send money into any pipeline, I would want to be exactly sure how that money was going to end up being used, and I would also want to break the propaganda system, which is enabling corporate takeovers of resources under the guise of humanitarian expeditions. This is very important.
So my answer to the question is absolutely. I would support aid to countries like Darfur, remedying the situation there. I think the question really identifies one of the outstanding roles that the United Nations can play, and one of the reasons I think it was founded, which is helping out other countries, making sure the world is a better place for everybody to live, and that's something that is also in our national security interest. There are a number of programs that have been very successful. The microloan program, where loans of very small amounts, $100, $500, $50, are given to poverty-stricken people in countries like this, and they're able to use those to get off their feet and to find safe drinking water and to start producing economic value and to buy food for themselves and break out of poverty. So these programs are outstanding. I think that's one of the real amazing uses that the UN has. I think we should absolutely support programs that will prevent genocide and that will help people get out of poverty and relieve the suffering from hunger. So yes, that's among the many, I think, noble causes of the United Nations, and I think that it is absolutely something that should be funded and pursued. Thank you.
It is a very complex issue. Basically, yes, I think the U.S. and the UN should be doing much more to provide aid to refugees and people who are hungry and ill than to spend money on military action. Mr. Lerman brings up a very good point. You can't just throw money at organizations and hope it goes the right way. You have to follow up, make sure your investments are being spent the way they are. In general, the Green Party looks at supporting human needs over corporate greed, and that's one thing, and peaceful over military solutions. So we don't want to be spending any money on the military if we can avoid it. And we do want to be spending money to raise up the quality of life of people all around the planet.
So can I just ask, would you guys be working to follow through to see where this money is going and try to resolve those issues so that the U.S. could give more money to the UN for these purposes?
I say yes, absolutely. If we're going to give the money, we need to follow up on it, and I think we should do both.
Yeah, I would say in general, yes, that we could do more. But, and I'm in agreement with what Leland says about, here's what I would like to say is we have to look at where a lot of, what is the genesis of a lot of these humanitarian crises. And more often than not, it is something that has arisen because of the influence of Western and imperialist nations. I found it very interesting watching, and it's just an example, when you watch Hotel Rwanda, when they talk about the Hutus and the Tutsis. And until the Belgians were there were no Hutus and Tutsis. And the Belgians said, hey, one way that we can control these people is to divide them. And so Western nations have often, in their colonial and imperialist endeavors, sought to divide people. And what we're dealing with now is a lot of the leftovers of what has gone on with Western expansion over the last 150, 200 years. So I think, and then again, it's perpetuated by current global economic policies. So unless we seek to honestly examine the roots of whatever humanitarian crises there are and undo these, then even if we increase aid, we may well just be throwing money down the toilet. I mean, I think there has to be a level of honesty in our own responsibility in how these crises have arisen. And we have not done a very good job of that.
I don't know what troubles me more, political rhetoric that's generalizations or unrealistic statements that have no hope of realization. The thing that is simple answer to your question, it's not complex. We just need to pay our apportionment and become a responsible participant in the UN. And we need to do it with an aggressive purpose so that we will protect our own interests by solving some of these world problems.
Yes, I do. Like everyone else here, support more humanitarian aid. I just want to point out a couple of things. As a result of our war in Iraq, or an invasion of Iraq, we've now created 4 million refugees from Iraq, 2 million of which are now in Syria. I've yet to read about us sending any financial assistance to the Syrians to account for this. Another 1 million are in Jordan as we speak, and another 1 million are displaced within Iraq. I've never read any article that I know of where we're doing anything about this at all. A second issue is, the United States, we like to think we're a generous country, but much of our aid is tied to neoliberal policies of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, where we basically come in and take over countries and say, if you want this little piece of the pie, you also have to get rid of all your sovereign rights. And we need to change this. This is a horrible policy.